Hello everybody, in this video we're going to talk about 3.10, the new targeting systems and the new HUD. Some of the ships previously had this HUD as a sort of a trial run sort of thing. You might have seen it before. It's way more attractive, in my opinion. So let's get into it. First on the left we have your speed bar, which is, I know, a very technical term, speed bar. It's more or less the same as it was before, although they changed the proportions of where the red line is. To the left, you have the velocity and your thrust listed. Obviously, in space, no inertia. I can maintain velocity and have no thrust. They have changed the values of atmospherics and flying through them, so you are likely to notice that bigger planets are even harder to get off than they were before. Your G's are listed in this cute little circle thing here. And it even shows you the direction that the G-forces are pulling away from center, which is excellent. It's adorable. Gear is your landing gear marker. It flashes when it's activating or deactivating, and when the dot is empty, your landing gear is up. Coupled shows you whether or not you are using coupled mode for your limiter and your cruise control. When it's uncoupled, your ship maintains whatever speed up to your limiter that you last set it to. I prefer to play with coupled, but it's mostly preference. Every once in a while I turn it off for really smooth parking jobs. ESP, my understanding of ESP is that it's a heads-up display assist for targeting when you're pivoting, when you're turning and trying to hit a target in your dead zone, to help with the lag and lead time of your pit. I could be wrong. I saw a lot of people arguing about what it is and whether or not it's valuable. There's not a button natively to toggle it on off. You have to go assign one yourself. So I'm just going to leave it on for now. I feel like it helps. On the right here, we have your different gimbal modes. You'll notice that R no longer changes those. R now runs through selected targets. We'll go over that in a second. These are all pretty much the same. There's just now a nice dot that helps you keep track of what's going on. In the center here, you get warning messages much more clearly than you ever used to. Instead of icons, you sometimes get an icon, but then also a full description, including, and I really like the one that says you have to contact to get a landing pad. I mean, hopefully gone are the days of 15 red flames across because you have 15 missiles coming at you. Hopefully. All right. Now let's go through some of the targeting systems. Some of the stuff is new with 3.10, some of it isn't, but I'm going to try and go through all of it just for ease. One of the first things that you'll notice is that R no longer changing your gimbling mode. It changes your target selection, as you can see here with the glowing arrow. Now this cycles through all targets, allied and enemies, and it allows you to select targets without locking onto them. This might be useful for scanning or also pinning, which we'll get to in a second. Now, I'm using 7 right now to cycle all targets to go through these turrets, which, by the way, using turrets on a space station is a really easy way to practice your cycling or test your key bindings to make sure you've done them right without having to try and do it in the thick of combat. With 3.10, by default, there is a lock-on mode, and you can see now this is the target I'm locked onto, and my character's head, when I'm not free looking or using internal thought, is following the target for as much as possible. Now this can sometimes make it hard to fly because you can't see your instruments, and also it's really disorienting, especially if you select a new target that you're not originally looking at and your head moves. To fix this, you go to Options, you scroll to the bottom of Game Settings, Look Ahead, automatically look at target, change that to no. Now, if you want to sometimes look at your target, you go to Key Bindings, Advanced Controls, Targeting, look at Locked Target Toggle Hold, minus. Now, for me, minus is one of my mouse keys, so if I have a target, now that I naturally don't look at it, but when I go to click my mouse button, he looks at it. Now, if you're too far away and there's no way your character can see it, they won't turn their head when you click it. I have found this to be the most useful solution, aka turning off the default and turning on the toggle so I can sometimes use it. Next, let's go through pinning targets. So I'm going to hit Alt-T to unlock all my targets. You're going to pin the target that is selected, not the one that is locked on. So let's pin this. Alt and then a number. Now, naturally, they're bound to 1, 2, and 3. And so Alt-1 will give you a pin on target 1. And then when I hit 1, I lock onto that target, or I unlock onto that target. And if I can pin another one, and again, that number locks and unlocks on, and I can go to a third one, you can pin up to 3 targets. And then Alt and the number again unpins that target. I have found this most useful for pinning allies before combat. You can pin up to 3 targets, and it makes them obviously visually easier to identify throughout space, so that way you don't accidentally hit a friendly. Especially if sometimes your friends might acquire a crime stat or get a red border in combat for weird circumstances. Lastly, I'd like to talk a little bit about target cycling. So as I was showing you earlier, 7 cycles all targets, which is how I am cycling through the neutral targets of the turrets on a space station. If you hit Alt and then that number, like Alt-7, you reset where you are in the cycle progression, and you reset to the closest target. And that is incredibly useful when you're in combat and there are more than one enemy targets and you want to reset to the one that is closest to you, because they are likely the one that you're trying to engage with. Now, by default, 4 cycles attackers, 5 cycles hostiles, 6 cycles friendlies, and 7 cycles everyone. And Alt and any of those numbers will reset the cycle to whatever is closest to you. The difference between hostiles and attackers is it's pretty obvious, in the sense that a hostile might not be attacking you at any given moment, either because they don't see you, or because they're too far away, or they're not engaging, or they're someone with a crime stat that doesn't know that you're about to attack them, etc., etc. I actually have rebound cycle hostiles, which was normally 5. I've rebound that to 1 and Alt-1 to reset it. And then I've moved the pin numbers down a little bit because it's the one I use the most, cycle hostiles, and I just don't want to reach and hit number 5 all the time. Obviously, it's just preference, but that's how I like to do it. Cycle friendlies won't cycle through neutral targets, which, like the turrets, I couldn't get it to work, so that's why I had to use cycle all. In this clip of me fighting, I frequently get stuck not remembering to reset when I get right up on a turret, and I sit and I cycle through all of the hostiles or the attackers instead of hitting Alt and then the number to reset the cycle to the sentry that is closest to me. I hope that this clears some things up about the new features and maybe some of the old ones. I hope you enjoy flying with the new sexy HUD, And if you have any notes on it or notice anything weird about it, please let me know in the comments so that way we can all learn together. Because that's how we get through the verse, by learning together. Happy hunting.